So here's a personal message from Nelson Mandela to EEASA, which he gave us in 1995. Isn't that fantastic? He said, "We wish EEASA well, in the knowledge that the conference and workshops will be both challenging and enjoyable. We are confident that it will serve to realize some of the many opportunities in our wonderful country." So as early as 1995, Nelson Mandela was aware of EEASA and sending us messages of goodwill. This session is about COVID-19, and here we have Yuval Noah Harari saying the COVID might pass, but we will have a different world, and haven't we just been reminded of that? One could argue that the COVID pandemic has disrupted more lives globally than any other event ever in history. But what are we learning from it? And how can we move forward and strengthen our pathways to a more just and sustainable world? Here's a little cartoon that suggests how, since COVID times, the world's actually in better shape because we've used less fossil fuels, we've had less aeroplanes flying all over the place, and industry has slowed down in many parts of the world. So in a way, the world has more energy, water is a bit cleaner, and the air is certainly cleaner. And that goes for the big cities of the world. We'll now explore how action learning can support community mobilization and how one can link this to citizen science. Action learning is a really exciting way to go about planning a meaningful environment education lesson, and one could start the planning by saying what is the issue or matter of concern and put that right in the middle of the diagram of action learning. The next thing to do is to say how can one tune in and plan together for the learning, remembering that the people one's seeking to educate are more important than the message one's trying to convey to them, what's currently going on in their minds, and how can they tune in to the lesson and the experience of learning that you're planning together. The second T of action learning is talk or dialogue. How can you make the talking rich around the topics that you are learning about together? How can you support people to think, reflect, and revise their thinking around the topics that they are considering? Another important part of action learning is the actual fieldwork encounters, or T for touch. How can you have meaningful experiences out there in nature or in the environment, in the cities, where people can actually look at the real thing and do practical activities related to what they're learning about? And finally, the fifth T of action learning is to take action. What action can we all take together from the learning we've done with action learning? This is a project we're doing where we tried to do teaching adults using Zoom and internet-based teaching. None of them had laptops, so we had to use mobile phones. All 12 participants were able to borrow a mobile phone. Remember, these are unemployed people living in communities that don't have a lot of resources, and yet using WhatsApp group chat, they've been able to have a fantastic training course in how to become an EnviroChamp in eThekwini. They're using action learning and indigenous knowledge processes to do it. Looking at things like how were catchments managed in the past and how have things changed today. So really building on the intrinsic knowledge that many people have of their area and their catchment. So the indigenous knowledge processes that came out of this is how important it is to wash hands before one goes to visit somebody else. And we found out that early Nguni people, when they approached a new village, the travelers would be encouraged to wash their hands before entering the village. This goes back hundreds of years, and is very relevant to COVID times today. Collecting sweet water by sweeping the surface of the water with one's forearm, it was discovered that this reduces the amount of bacteria one picks up by up to 20%. Another indigenous knowledge fact. And finally, using wild spinach in and around communities, which is a really healthy plant full of iron for one's metabolism and healthy and yet for free. Now we have a few slides that just show people doing citizen science using a clarity tube, a velocity plank to measure velocity. In this slide, we can see how people are studying the organisms, the little animals that live in a stream, with a view to using them to tell the story of the stream quality. And this is called mini-SAS, the Stream Assessment Scoring System. Once you've done a mini-SAS study, you can put your data onto a Google Earth plane and record it there, what you found, and the Google Earth plane will help you work out the quality of that stream or river. On this map of South Africa, you can see how many people have done a mini-SAS study, and you can see all the major rivers of South Africa have been measured through mini-SAS. This is a close-up of Howick and shows the quality of the different streams flowing in our local town of Howick near Midmar Dam. We also linked the community mobilization to matters of concern and the SDGs, and here we looked at water monitoring and the animals in the water, concerns about sewage pollution, and how all these different SDGs are affected by sewage pollution, whether it's good health and well-being, poverty, clean water, gender equality, and life below water. We learned that sewage issues are complex and have to be dealt with differently, and there are many different main causes that we can work on together. In summary, what has this talk meant? In COVID times, we need to adapt and be resilient, encouraging everyone. We need to connect and communicate. We need to strengthen communities of practice like EEASA and the RCE networks. How do we do that? Through co-engaged involvement, working with people, not on them and at them. Action learning we've heard about. Citizen science, sharing the tools of science like SDG 6.3.2 and mini-SAS, and strengthen indigenous knowledge practices. And where should we do this? Everywhere. And what greater network than EEASA to provide a platform for us all to collaborate, respond, and support each other to build an inclusive society where we can all live with pride and purpose. I hope you enjoyed this presentation as much as we enjoyed putting it together, and we look forward to working with everybody as we all seek to encourage people to live more sustainably and understand the systems on Earth that support us, nourish us, and that we should all work towards protecting, rehabilitating, and making sure that the future of life on Earth is better for all. That is, for the plants, the animals, and the people. Thank you very much for your time.